Hey guys, this is Rob from Turtle Flakes Podcast and the Retro Junkie Super Show, and you are listening to XS Gaming Podcast with something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too. Hosted by my radical dudes, Xander and James. Cowabunga!
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of XS Gaming Podcast. This is episode 81. We're recording this on the 12th of March. It's been a while, and I'm joined with my wonderful co-host, Mr. James Gruesome. What's up, James?
You know, it's Saturday, off for work for the weekend. Sesame Street is singing Bone Thugs and Harmony, and One Direction's going to be on Rock Band. Everything's great in the world right now.
And I do want to mention big thanks to our good buddy, Rob. He actually did the intro for this episode. Be sure to check out his podcast, The Retro Junkies and Turtle Flakes. Big thank you to Rob, and of course, big congratulations as well to him and the missus for wonderful little Grayson, who has an excellent head of hair. I wish I had hair like his.
Exactly, the best hair ever.
Never thought I would say that about a baby, but we are also joined with a very special guest, and I'm really excited about this. We are joined with Jim, aka KidShoryuken. What's up, Jim?
Oh, hello, everybody. XS Gaming Podcast. I was going to say pasta. XS Pasta listeners. It's great to be here. Ich bin ein XS Game Podcast listener. Fuck, I'm all over the place. Hi, I'm Jim. It's nice to meet you.
Well, you just woke up too, because for some of you guys who haven't checked out Jim's YouTube, first of all, shame on you, and second of all, Jim's really interesting in the sense that you live in Japan, so it's actually Sunday morning over there.
Yes, it is, and you're catching me at my most wired because I've just had my morning coffee, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. I might not be able to shut up throughout the course of this thing, so you're going to have to tolerate me for however long this is, the duration of this podcast.
Yeah,
that's
no
perfectly
problem.
fine, because I'm a little tired, so it'll be good to have a lively side on there.
Definitely.
Turbo speed. Let's go.
Well, let's get into some gaming news now. Not a whole lot has been happening with gaming news. I know, James, you had some stuff to talk about, but I had some really interesting rumors, and I want to say again, guys, these are rumors. This is not the gospel, because this is from 4chan of all places, and I never thought I'd be talking about 4chan, but this is where I got the source from.
Ouch.
And the same guy that posted this is the same guy who did the predictions for Pokemon Sun and Moon, and he also did a prediction for Paper Mario, which we had the last Nintendo Direct, and that's what they were talking about. But the big news is he said he had the full scoop on some really crazy information of Nintendo at E3, and one of the things is, of course, the announcement of the Nintendo NX. Now, supposedly the Nintendo NX, that's the code name, but it's going to be called the Nintendo Deluxe. That's the official name, and it's not going to be digital only. It says all games will be released in boxes with a card inside, very reminiscent of the NES and Famicom days. The cartridge is bigger than a 3DS game, but not much bigger than a disc. And the controller has a screen, so you can carry it around anywhere you want. That's that fusion that we've been hearing about. And also, the control pad's a lot smaller than the Wii U gamepad, so you're not going to be carrying around like a Game Gear or anything like that. But it's also going to have another official controller, screenless, very similar to like the Pro Controller and stuff like that. So, what do you guys think about this? The Nintendo Deluxe. It sounds like a sandwich.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love the name. It sounds delicious.
Nintendo for breakfast.
Yes. I hope it comes with special sauce. It's kind of what I heard people predicting anyway to begin with, that they were going to go with the little DS-esque little, not cartridges, but like little chips, whatever the hell you call them. People were predicting that already, but and like you said, this could be complete utter nonsense coming from Monsieur 4chan over there. But it sounds like it could be legit. I mean, E3 is however many months away. But if it is true, I mean, it sounds interesting. It sounds like just taking the Wii U concept and just kind of expanding on it a little more. And you'll have your handheld and you'll have your your console. It's the all-in-one deal. You can have like your little 3DS and your Wii U all in one. That does sound pretty cool to me. But again, yeah, it could be completely utter nonsense. I don't know.
What about you, James?
Yeah, I mean, that idea, we've heard for a while about it being combined with the handheld and console. And I mean, I always thought the concept was cool. Seems like that handheld could be, packing some graphics that's playing all on the same level. And it's like, they're jumping up the standards. I don't know all the specifics on stuff like that. I don't understand any of that crap anyway, honestly. It's just if the game looks pretty, it looks pretty. And that's okay with me. But, there's no reason. I mean, none of these things sound outlandish. So it seems very, sensible. I like the idea of it. I even kind of like the name, I hear some people talk about the name's horrible. I'm just like, Nintendo Deluxe. Like, it just, I don't know. It does make you think of food, but it just kind of makes you think of something that might be in like a catalog somewhere.
Deluxe. I hope they spell Deluxe in like a really cool edgy way, like capital D-LUX.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
and
the Nintendo Wii Lux.
And apparently the console is supposed to be retailed for $400. And they said that during the E3 they'll announce the launch, which is supposed to be either October or November 2016. So they're saying it's going to be coming out this holiday season. So
I imagine too. I mean, especially when they come out that soon, and they've always been so good with backwards compatibility. I wonder how. Hopefully they'll still take that on since they've always done it before. I don't know if they'll have to, maybe make something separate, maybe a different attachment. But, with so many Wii U games still coming out in what kind of seems, that it's had a relatively short lifespan, hopefully a lot of those games will be able to be played on the new one too. But I'm looking forward to it. It's always still exciting to me when Nintendo comes out with the new 3DS. That wasn't very exciting at all. But this on the one hand, it's always cool, and it's good to see them still, in the console market, despite what people always say and think that they might stop. It's like they're still going at it.
Yeah, they also did announce. They also talked about some games coming out, and I think you'll be excited about this, James. I'll go ahead and mention it. Metroid 4 is going to be coming. It's going to be a launch title. It says it's going to be the conclusion of the Prime series. It's, of course, being developed by Retro Studios, and it will also include a launch title of Metroid Amiibos, including Samus, Ridley, and Dark Samus.
Man, no Kraid? What?
No.
Why not? I don't know. That's really cool. I mean, the idea of a new Metroid, always exciting. Not quite as exciting to me as a, new 2D one would be. Because, I've still never really played the Prime series. I've heard they're awesome. I have a couple of them, and I keep meaning to actually, sit down with it. Because I'm sure they're great. I played that last one that had come out. What's that one everybody hated? Other M?
Yeah.
Other M. I didn't hate that one. That one was...
Me neither.
Yeah, wasn't that bad.
Xander, do you like that one? Didn't I send you a copy of that one?
You sent me a copy, but I still haven't played it.
No, you'll be like us. You'll think it's okay, man. It's not that horrible, but
don't believe the hype.
Yeah,
not a bad game.
Just a new Metroid in general. That, especially if it's coming out launching. Man, that's just cool to me. That's pretty much about the only way to describe it. That's really cool.
Well, here's something else too. Apparently, the Nintendo Deluxe is also going to be coming in with a pack-in game, and it's going to be a new 3D Mario game inspired by Super Mario World, where he goes back to Dinosaur Island, and it's going to be focusing on the 3 1-up moons from Super Mario World instead of stars, and focusing on Yoshi's and some sort of new creature that looks like they look very much like insects. And I think that's called Super Mario Crescent. That's supposed to be coming out. That's going to be really interesting. And
once again, if that's a pack-in, that's that's pretty cool, man. I mean, launching a system like that with the game. Despite whether if they do, an individual one, or if it still comes out, in a bundle with that game. Either way, because it's a game you'd end up wanting to get anyway. Just having it come with it, that's just great. I mean, going back, to Mario World, I like the idea of that. Still, I've never been into the 3D Mario games that much. I've played a little bit of the what's it called? The Galaxy. Played a little bit of Galaxy. I've never even really played Mario 64.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's funny.
And I have it. A friend of mine gave it to me. He's like, you need to play this. So I actually have a copy for my 64, and I probably should play that sometime. I really don't know how I missed out on that one. I don't know. I think I just only played wrestling games on the 64.
That's understandable.
Yeah, that's sensible thing to do anyways.
And last but not least on the Nintendo news, because I mean there was a lot more E3 stuff, but this is the stuff I copied and pasted. But apparently they do have the name for the new Legend of Zelda, and apparently I guess it is coming out for the Deluxe and the Wii U. So a lot of people are gonna be like, "Fuck, I knew it." If this is all true, of course. But it's going to be called The Legend of Zelda, The Hyrule Guardian. And you're going to be able to control Link and, of course, everyone's brand new favorite heroine, Linkle. Nipple.
Yeah, it just makes you think of all kinds of perverted shit with tongues and naughty parts. Ugh. Bad form, Nintendo. You didn't take into account the way Americans can twist shit around these nice little innocent things you try to give us, take it and twist around to something perverted and disgusting. You got to stay on top of that. They should have an entire department at Nintendo. It should be part of the translation department where they also take into account what are Americans going to turn this into when we give it to them.
I would like to think maybe they would appreciate that on some, levels, considering their pervertedness too at times.
So I was going to say, James, you had a little bit of news.
There was just a couple things I was looking around. I heard, you did a video recently on some Pokemon memories, and Pokemon is breaking records of sales on the Virtual Console with the yellow, the red, and the blue.
Oh yeah.
It's come out again, available. It doesn't have the. I was kind of disappointed. I thought maybe it would have like some online trading features. I was actually thinking of getting one.
Yeah, that's what made me not want to get it, because I was hoping it had online so you could get it, so you could experience it for the first time and we could trade, but it's got the fucking local Wi-Fi because they want to simulate 1999 with the fucking link cable that all of us hated, but we had no other choice. It's retarded. I don't know why they did that.
No, it's just, so I'm going to hold off. I'm debating on the Pokken tournament game just because I love Tekken, and I don't know, the idea that's just kind of funny. So that could possibly be the first Pokemon game I actually buy.
That comes out this coming Friday, as well as some more Amiibos. We got the Ryu, Famicom Rob, and Roy, and some of the Animal Crossing characters coming out all on that day. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm going to be very broke that Friday.
Also coming out on that day, 1 million Amiibos pickup videos.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! Yeah. Speaking of Amiibos, I guess I could give a little bit of an update of my Amiibo obsession, because Twilight Princess did come out, and I got the Amiibo with that, and I'll get into a little bit more of Twilight Princess when we talk about games we've been playing recently towards the end, because I'll go ahead and say I haven't played that much of it, but the Amiibos have gotten so crazy now that I've just gotten to the point where I'm just getting the ones I really, really want. The only series that I want to complete, and it's just because that's what I started with, is of course the Smash Amiibos, and then after that I'm done, because there was a couple of the Animal Crossing ones I really liked because I like Animal Crossing, but they're talking about coming out with more Amiibos for all these different games, and I don't know, man. It's just I'm going to be running out of room for more games because I'll have Amiibos in its place, and I just got to draw the line, man.
It's better, because then, too, if you can't find one, it might just bother you and make you feel bad. And it's like, yeah, you just got to find that one. And, I gave up a long time ago. I was just like, screw it. And then it's just like a couple of the ones that I got. And I mean, I like the ones, I love like the Pac-Man, Little Mac, both of the Samuses. There's certain ones I just really like having, and they're not necessarily hard to find. I mean, I don't think any of them are that hard to find now, are they?
I mean, there's still some, but I mean, it's gotten a lot better. I mean, they've been re-releasing, Marth is nowhere near what Marth used to be. I mean, now Best Buy has overstock of like all these amiibos that people were scalping, and I'm kind of laughing to myself now, but...
Yeah, anything that stops the scalpers is good. I heard about this one game. I thought this was really interesting. I believe I heard this on the CU podcast and on the Retro League. But there's a Russian roulette Nintendo game.
Yeah. Apparently, it's a new homebrew, and it's using the light gun. And you put the gun to your head, and it's like Russian roulette. And apparently, I need to look up screenshots of it, because apparently there's like a cowboy that's on the screen, and he's like really detailed. And apparently he can talk like 13 to 19 seconds of dialogue, which for a Nintendo game, that's insane.
Yeah, and
it
cool.
Insults you.
Because the zapper doesn't interact with the screen, so you can use it, on newer TVs. You're not really shooting anything, and I know it was kind of made overall more as a drinking fun game.
Mm-hmm.
As dark as it kind of sounds, when I first heard it, I was like, wow, like a Russian roulette Nintendo game. I mean, granted, most of the people playing games like that are going to be older people anyway. I think. I mean, not to discredit, the younger guys. I know there's a lot that are into it, but. It just kind of seems something, older people would pick up. It sounds really cool. I know they got the Kickstarter going, and, you got the different prices, I think ranging from around 50 up to, close to 100, I think, for like a boxed one. And then I think you can even get, like your name in the game. Might be something with a likeness. And I don't even know if there might be something about you being able to do some audio phrase. Not positive on that part, but
yeah, and apparently one of the tiers is you actually get a leather holster
and some shot glasses.
Yeah, you get a leather holster that actually fits either the zapper or the cartridge. You can actually put it in, which I thought that was a really nice little touch. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I wish I remembered the name of the game. I guess is this Russian roulette?
I believe so. Once again, I'm not sure on that. It might just be referred to as the Russian roulette game, or it could just be Russian roulette. That would make sense.
That sounds fantastic, though.
I know, wouldn't it? I mean, you'd sit there and like whoever like loses has to take a shot, literally, of like bourbon.
That would be that. It makes me think of on Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the shotgun, where they literally just load a bunch of booze into a shotgun and shoot each other in the face with it.
Yeah, it's amazing to see what people are doing with the older technology with these homebrews and stuff, and giving these games new life. I love it, man. I really do.
And even the price, like, when I heard it, I was really interested. I mean, the price, like I said, the boxed one, I think it's somewhere ranging between 75 and 100, or you can just get the cart for maybe like 50 to 60. But I mean, that's still, it's not like somebody just took a ROM and, made some bootleg cartridge. It's somebody actually doing something. And I think that's a good case where, that would be worth it. I think that would just be a really cool, item to not only just have, but also, to play and drink.
Definitely. And trying to think of like any more news. Okay.
Well,
okay.
I saw something, and I saw they're filming Dead Rising 2, the movie. I didn't know there was a Dead Rising 1.
There is, and actually, surprisingly, I hear it's not that bad of a movie.
Yeah, they said it was on Crackle. Which, I mean, I downloaded Crackle and I went on there like once or twice, and I was like, this kind of sucks, and just didn't really go back to it. But I might check that out. I think that could be pretty interesting. And I saw something about Telltale and Batman.
Telltale
Have you heard
and
anything
Batman.
about that?
Yeah. There's going to be a new Telltale Batman game. They haven't really said too much about it other than the announcement, but I'm hoping, with Telltale being such a story-driven type of company, I'm hoping that this is like a true old-school detective Batman game. That would be fucking awesome.
Yeah, it
does sound
definitely
pretty cool.
have some parts like that. I imagine it just would fall in really good with all the other games along that line. It's just something I heard about briefly, and it got me kind of excited because anytime they have a new one come out, I always look forward to checking it out at some point, almost no matter what franchise it's using. Like I said, like Game of Thrones. I played that. I've never watched that show. I have no idea what's going on. I just wanted to see some dragons, and it's like I played that, and it was still pretty cool.
I think I'm gonna want to check out this Dead Rising movie though, because like you, I wasn't aware that there was a Dead Rising one. But I have to imagine, as long as you have zombies and a lawnmower, you can't make a bad movie with that. So I got to check that out.
Kind of like Dead Alive. That would be
very much so like Dead Alive. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, it could be. I saw that we were filming. When it mentioned filming 2, and I was like, are they making like a movie sequel to a game? It's kind of a confusing headline. And when I looked at it, that's when they mentioned it, and they said the first one did, extremely well. And they said people, were apparently digging stuff with that franchise. Or either people, it's got to be pretty good too, because it seems like, zombies might have kind of run their course a little bit. I don't know. I wouldn't imagine them being just quite everywhere as they were. So, it could be really cool. Once in a while, you get one of those video game movies that kind of is more under the radar. And sometimes those are the ones that could end up being, better than, a big budget bomb flop movie.
Yeah, it's probably one of those movies that's just so bad it's good. Which I like those kind of movies.
Again, if it's anything like the game, it should be pretty good, because the game itself is almost, it's totally mindless. Run around, kill all the zombies, take a few pictures. It's good fun. So if you just take that, literally just translate that onto film. Film somebody running around with any number of random objects, taking big parasols and sticking it through zombies. Do that for 90 minutes. It's good. I'm gonna watch it.
Definitely. And the last little bit of news before we take our break, guys, is of course this Friday they released they re-released some Wii U and 3DS games in the form of the Nintendo Select series. Now, Nintendo Select series is very similar to, I believe it was like the Player's Choice of like the GameCube and the Wii, where it's like the greatest hits. And what I like about it is they're re-releasing a lot of games that are become really, really hard to find, or maybe they're out of print, like Pikmin 3, Ocarina of Time on the 3DS. They're coming out with these games, and of course they're only $20, which is not too bad. But one of the reasons why I'm talking about it is because, James, you were mentioning earlier about scalpers. For some reason, there are people scalping the Nintendo Selects. Like, seriously, people are buying these Nintendo Selects, and they're like buying like 8 or 9 of them and trying to resell them on Amazon and eBay.
Are they trying to like confuse people with the non? I didn't know. Is Ocarina like a hard one to come by?
Well, it was out of print. It was out of print for a while.
I've got a brand new one in the wrapper still.
Yeah,
we can't even get good scalpers these days. They don't even. It has to be like rare and in demand for you to scalp it, sir.
I know. Like,
it doesn't work the other way around.
Yeah, the fact that it's a greatest hits is an indication that Nintendo's going to be making a lot more of them. So you just bought yourself 8 copies of Pikmin 3.
Look, Xander, you don't get it. There's only about 10 million copies floating around. It's not infinite, so it's rare.
It's a good way to think about it. But what we're going to do, guys, we're going to take our little break. We're going to skip the music section that we usually have for our break, and we're actually be having a YouTube shout-out. So be sure to check out the YouTuber that you're about to listen to. And when we come back, we're going to be talking more about Jim's channel and about some Japanese games, TurboGrafx stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. So sit back, relax, guys, and we'll be right back.
Hey there, folks. Robert here, better known as your Geeky Tipster, and I'd like to start off by thanking the XS Gaming Podcast crew for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about myself with you guys. Basically, I'm a YouTuber who does awesome content about pretty much anything geeky, whether it's the latest movies, the hottest video games, both retro and current, or even just tinkering with retro or current technology. I'm all about showing you guys awesome geeky content that you guys might enjoy, whether it's on my YouTube channel, on my blog, or just on plain social media. I love sharing geeky goodness with all of you guys. So if you want to find out more about me, head over to yourgeekytipster.com. You got all my social links there, my YouTube, my Twitch page, all of that stuff. And feel free to follow me if you guys are into all kinds of geeky goodness. Anyway, guys, thanks again to the XS Gaming Podcast crew. And as Xander would say, happy gaming.
Hey guys, Xander here for a quick gaming store shout out. If you're in the Hilliard, Ohio area, head on down to the Warp Zone Video Games and Beyond, taking you back to the past with some fantastic retro gaming deals. And this is the best place in the universe to buy, sell, trade modern, vintage, and imported video games, merchandise, and collectibles. If you want to relive those good old days of blowing into a cartridge or find the latest games to earn that achievement or trophy, check out Warp Zone Video Games and Beyond. They have you covered. Be sure to check them out on Facebook, and you can also check out all their information on the description of this episode. As always, guys, happy gaming, and in this case, happy shopping.
And we are back, guys, and that was our YouTube shout out. That was Robert, your Geeky Tipster. Be sure to check out his YouTube channel. And also there was a video game store shout out as well, Warp Zone. A really, really good friend of mine. He used to have a YouTube channel, Retrolocalypse. I'm trying to say that. My tongue's getting all twisted, but his channel...
Metal Ted Competitions.
But yeah, he focused all on the DS back in the YouTube days, back in the old school days, and he's got his own store now. And oh my gosh, it's in Ohio, and every time I see him posting something on Facebook, I'm like, damn, I wish I was in Ohio, because he even posted some Sony monitors, some broadcast Sony monitors that someone just brought 5 in, and he was like, oh, these are $50 each. And I'm like, fucking hell. So yeah, he's always got some good stuff, and be sure, if you guys are in the Ohio area, to check his store out, and be sure to check out your Geeky Tipster, check out Robert. And if you guys are listening, if you have a YouTube channel or podcast or blog or something you'd like to share, be sure to send in an audio file. It can be WAV, it can be MP3, it could be MPA off your iPhone, to xsgamingpodcast@gmail.com. And I'll have a link on the description of this episode, so you guys can just click on that and go to it there as well. But anywho, one of the things that I'm really excited about this episode, of course, having Jim on the show and talking about your YouTube channel. Now, Jim, I've watched your channel for a couple of years now, and what was crazy is I found your channel around the same time that I was watching a lot of Luke Morris 1. And Luke Morris 1 was, he wasn't uploading as many videos at that time. So I was still looking up videos of, the infamous Hard Off, which, I know some of you laugh about it, but this store is like the gaming nirvana for retro gamers. And I'm going to pass the mic to you and, let you talk about your channel and explain what Hard Off is.
Okay, will do. Well, first of all, the name of my channel is about to be changed. It's now going to be Metal Lobster Tits. So you can find me at youtube.com/Metal Lobster Tits. It's a new direction I'm taking the channel in. Hard Off is, first of all, the name is confusing for a lot of people. Everybody makes the joke that, I can go through any and all videos I've posted about it. And somewhere in the comments, you'll probably find half a dozen hard off, more like hard on. Am I right? Nudge, nudge. or this video gave me a hard on, or things to that effect. Which
that's kind of complimentary, though.
Yes, absolutely, and we've all made that joke, and to a certain extent, it's true. It's not entirely out of the question to have a biological response when you go to a hard off, but essentially the name, if I'm not mistaken, because it started with book off, and I guess the meaning of the name is that, hey, there are books at reduced prices, so it's a book off, like it's half off or however many off, and then that extended to hard off, which is caters mostly in electronics and things like that, so it's hardware at reduced prices, hard off, and tons and tons of locations all over Japan. It's a recycle shop, so people turn in their old everything, not just video games, because there are tons and tons of video games at hard off, and that's why we go there, but music equipment, vinyl records, old computers, literally anything that has anything to do with electronics. You can go and find old laser discs. A friend of mine ended up picking up, I think, it was Neverending Story on Laserdisc for $1, and I was really
there's
jealous,
porn there too.
Yes, they have a used porno section. Which that section tends to get a little bit stinky. I don't know what's been going on. If you want to buy used porno, to each his own. Not for me though. I am thinking about having an entirely new series of videos though, dealing specifically with that. It's just going to be on an entirely separate channel, and that one it's going to be. I'm going to work in hard on somewhere. The hard off, hard on. I don't know. It's a work in progress. But hard off is awesome because you go in there and tons of retro games and modern games as well, because they carry everything. But you can find from Famicom to PS4 everything. I mean, prices aren't as good as they used to be when I first got here, say 6 years ago. Everything was dirt cheap. With this recent emergence of nostalgia, retro boom, everybody's getting into it. Everybody wants to collect. Everybody thinks they've got gold in their hands. But hard off, they know that they can't really jack up prices that much, because the people that are going to hard off are going there specifically because they want to spend less. So if they have to spend just as much as they're going to spend somewhere else, they're not going to go to hard off anymore. So the prices there are still really good. You can still buy Sega Saturns for like $20, and bins and bins and bins of games, loose cartridges, and PlayStation 1 and PS2 games especially, because those two systems had just these massive libraries of games. I think in Japan, because Japan got more releases than other regions of the world, so it's thousands of games for these two systems. So you can go in these bargain bins and just find tons of games for like $1 a piece. I bought games like Xenogears, for example, for $1. So loose carts, disc, everything, anything you can think of gaming-wise, you can find it for next to nothing. And that's what makes hard off so attractive. I get messages on my Facebook page all the time of people that are coming to visit Japan that have watched some of my hard off videos, and they're wanting to know specifically where these locations are. And they'll send me little messages or pictures of their little game hunting adventures in hard off. And yes, hard off rules. I too first became aware of hard off by watching Luke Morris's channel. When I first found out I was going to be moving to Japan, I started looking up just random videos on arcades and game stores and things like that, and came across Luke. And that's how I found out there was hard off. And then come to find out, the area I was living in, there were like 4 really big hard offs. Well, more than that, actually, just all around me. And so I started to go and just buy truckloads of games. And at one point, I thought, maybe I just take a camera with me to one of these, and maybe people would like that. So, yeah, those are my beginnings with hard off.
No, what I was going to ask is because you were mentioning how the retro scene even in Japan is starting to increase as well. It's not just in Europe and North America.
Yeah, I do a series of vids, because I do my hard off videos, and I show people like the better side of it, where you can go to these stores and buy games for dirt cheap, and you never know what you're going to find. But I also do a separate series of videos on dedicated game stores in Akihabara, which, if you don't know, is kind of Tokyo's crazy otaku anime electronics gaming district. It's just a really wacky place. It's like the live action internet or something. It's really out there. It's like my favorite place in the city. But I do a series of videos in the game stores there, and you can see the contrast between what you pay for in a hard off and what you're going to pay for in this retro game store, where the prices are significantly higher. And you look in any of the glass cases, and you'll see games in there for like hundreds of dollars, up to, who knows what. Wild Guns. I came across a copy of Wild Guns, complete in box, for like $1,000.
Holy shit!
So, yeah. So, retro gaming, retro collecting in Japan. Part of it is because so many. I think people caught on to the fact that there are lots of excellent games that you can import. Sometimes you can get them for cheaper than you would get a different version, or sometimes they're just Japan only altogether, and it's really desirable to have. And some people are aware of that fact, and they know that people outside of Japan are going to pay exorbitant amounts of money for these games. And in particular, I filmed one in a store that's very famous in Akihabara called Super Potato. And when you go in there, a lot of the shelves, at least for a while, they're starting to refill them, but a lot of the shelves were getting pretty bare. And someone had posted an article about this, and they had talked about it on the CU podcast, where they were saying that Japan is, all the games are getting bought up. Japan is running out of retro games, which is kind of a ridiculous statement to make. This never in a million years is Japan going to run out of video games. But that one store in particular, because you can go to any other retro game store in Akihabara and just see shelves loaded with games, just full to the brim. But because Super Potato is the one that everybody knows about, that's the one that a lot of the tourists are going to and buying up everything in sight. So the stock in Super Potato was getting really low just because people pop in for a week or so, hit the store, snag up all the things on their wish list, and they get out of there, and that just happens over and over and over again. And so the shelves were getting bare. So I think that's part of why you see prices going up. Not just because retro collecting is getting kind of popular in Japan, but because collecting Japanese games is getting more popular with foreigners. And that's dollar signs in their eyes. They can see it. So, I mean, they're not foolish. They got a bottom line.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I will say that the retro collecting scene in Japan is not as cutthroat as what I see in the States. I'm kind of ignorant on Europe, but in the States, just from watching other people on YouTube and from what I saw while I was briefly back in the States, living in Texas about a year and a half ago, it's not as bad here, but it's definitely not as good as it was when I first got here about 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember, I can't remember what video I made. I made a video where I was talking about Dracula X. Because Dracula X is like the only Castlevania games I don't have in my collection. And that was one collection I've always wanted to have, is every US release Castlevania game. And I remember, like, you messaged me on YouTube and you're like, hey, have you ever thought about getting the import of Dracula X? Because, yeah, the import, the Dracula X, and a lot of Super Famicom games are so much cheaper than the Super Nintendo. It's crazy.
Absolutely. If you're familiar with Thrift Dweller, Nate from Thrift Dweller, he was wanting copies of Dracula X and Mega Man X2, which are two just really, really expensive games in the States. But I was able to go, and the first place I went to had copies that were maybe a fifth of what you would pay in the States. And Super Nintendos are essentially region free.
Yeah.
So he was more than happy to have those. I was more than happy to sell them to him. So yes, in many instances, the Japanese alternative is the cheaper alternative.
Yeah, and of course, a game like Castlevania, Mega Man, you don't have to know how to speak Japanese to enjoy those games. They're just, straight up action goodness.
Yes, and that's kind of the point of a lot of the reviews that I do. I review a lot of import games, and the vast majority of them are Japan-only releases, and the majority of them are games that you can play without any understanding of Japanese. So a lot of shoot-'em-ups, fighting games, action titles, beat-'em-ups, platformers, that kind of thing. There's a lot of that in Japan that are either cheaper alternatives or just games we didn't get at all to begin with. And if you're a retro collector, that's really attractive, that there's a whole library of games that you're not aware of for your favorite system, whether it be a Super Nintendo or Sega Saturn. There's a whole new world, a new spectrum of games out there. So you don't have to instantly, run to eBay to find that one game that you have heard of that is super expensive. You can maybe find something that you haven't heard of that's just as good, that is not going to break your bank.
Yeah, that's one of the things I do like about your channel. Is I do like all the reviews. I love the one of the latest videos I watched was the Macross review you did. That was excellent. I was like, man, I really want to get that. And it's so interesting how of a different spectrum some of those games are overseas, and it's almost like rediscovering a console. It's like playing all these games again. Is that kind of how you felt when you came over to Japan and you started playing all these games that you probably hadn't heard of beforehand?
Yes, very much so, because my original intention when I went to some retro shops was I wanted to rebuy some of the classics. So, for instance, on my first trip, I bought a Super Famicom and picked up like Rockman X and Super Mario Kart. But as I was, perusing the games, I noticed all kinds of stuff I had never seen before. There was just a whole bunch of games, Dragon Ball Z and Yu Yu Hakusho and all my favorite anime from when I was a kid. There's it seems like dozens of games based on them, and just all kinds of really quirky, weird titles I just hadn't seen before. And then really an epiphany was when I finally bought a PC Engine for the first time. The 16-bit generation kind of swapped in Japan. In the States, number one was the Super NES, followed by the Genesis, and TurboGrafx was a distant third. But in Japan, the PC Engine was the second place, I guess, of the 16-bit generation, coming just behind the Super NES and really outdoing the Mega Drive. So in the States, the TurboGrafx library is pretty small, but in Japan, it's immense. It's just tons and tons of games. So when I bought a PC Engine, I had never owned a TurboGrafx 16 to begin with, so it was a new library for me, but I didn't realize the scope of that library of games and just how big it is. If you combine the HuCard games and the CD games, it's hundreds and hundreds of games. Probably, I'm just estimating. I don't have any real numbers, but probably on the order of like 500 games or more. So that's almost immediately became my favorite system to collect for, just because it was an entirely new retro system, entirely new library of games to explore. And PC Engine. If I were to suggest maybe just one or two systems to collect for imports, I would say PC Engine and possibly Sega Saturn or PS1, because those libraries too were just like out of control when it comes to Japanese games.
Yeah, not to mention that the PC Engine is a lot cheaper than a TurboGrafx.
Absolutely, like the 90-something TurboGrafx games that got released in the States, and each one is they're not all like expensive and hard to come by, but it's safe to say the majority are. And then some of the CD games, good lord, I had bought a copy of Cotton, Fantastic Night Dreams Cotton, nice, for the PC Engine CD, which it wasn't cheap. It was probably like a $50 game. But when I looked at, I didn't even know it got a US release, but apparently it did. And I think a lot of people didn't know because it's, I don't know how many hundreds of dollars for a US copy of that game. So yeah, that's one of the things that makes the PC Engine really attractive to collect for, is the size of the library of games and how affordable most of those games are.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of funny because, I've told the story before, but James was originally the first guest on the podcast, and he's just stayed with me for the last 80 episodes and became my co-host. But the first episode that me and James did together, we were talking about the TurboGrafx, because James does have a TurboGrafx. I don't. I wish I did, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, that's how I got the gig on the show here. It's just because I had TurboGrafx.
I was like, yeah, we're going to have him on now.
Spring for a PC Engine Duo R, and you will want for nothing.
Oh, yeah. I've really thought about that. Like, my brother, he's been big onto that for a while. I know he was excited when his wife got him Rondo of Blood. And that's one that seems to not necessarily be the cheapest thing, but granted, it's kind of only in Japan, really, as compared to, our Dracula X is not quite the same.
It's not the cheapest thing, but it's, when you buy it, that's pretty much the only PC Engine you're ever going to need. It doesn't require any system cards. It's just everything. The only thing it will require a system card for are the ones that require the arcade card. But everything else, it's all built into it. So once you have it, that's it. That's your PC Engine, and as long as it stays working, that's really the only one you'll ever need. So it's a little more expensive, but I'd say it's worth it. Worth at least $100.
It definitely does. I mean, the regular one is great. It was like my friend down the street had one when I was younger, and I had always played just a few games on it. And I mean, I have more games than like he ever had. It's probably around 10. I got Pac-Land. That's what counts. And I like some of the legendary acts. I think those are pretty fun. I had the one game that was it was a dungeon explorer. It's kind of like Gauntlet. I think I gave that one to my brother, and then I got a kickboxing game it's pretty much best of the best on Super Nintendo. It's the Andre Panza kickboxing. And I have a couple sports titles that are actually still sealed in the plastic that I just have just because, I'm all up for opening stuff, but I'm like, it's some sports game I don't really want to play. But it's just a cool system, and I definitely think the scope of it is, like you said, it expands so vastly if you go over into the Japanese market with that. And it really does sound like a good investment to go with.
Yeah, because over the years, I think I've amassed at least a couple hundred PC Engine games, and I still come across games that I'm like, what the fuck is this? Never heard of this. So it's, definitely a massive library of games. Definitely worth it.
It's not like I have a whole bunch of, ROMs with the Super NES and Genesis and everything, but it's like, that's the one thing, like, I don't have. So it's like the amount of games I've played is still actually, pretty small. So it's just kind of cool to have one out there that it's, it's so open, and it's like, man, there's just all kinds of possibilities with that.
Absolutely. The PC Engine, and again, like I said, the Sega Saturn, because again, the 32-bit era here was kind of flip-flopped. So the Sega Saturn was second to the PlayStation. It beat out the Nintendo 64 here in Japan, and again, just a ton of Japan exclusive games for the Saturn, and again, cheaper alternatives to buying US versions.
Yeah, I mean, I really wish that the Saturn lift off like it did in Japan, because it seems like a totally different console.
Yes, part of that is just because of the RAM carts that were released in Japan that were not released in the States, which I think if you get the Action Replay card, it doubles as a RAM expansion card. But just, here in Japan, there was, I think, a 1 megabyte RAM expansion card. There were the King of Fighters games that were released with, they weren't RAM expansion, but I think they loaded certain portions of the game. So those remained only in Japan. And it's all like arcade perfect translations, which is what the Saturn, is best at. And then the games that require the 4 megabyte RAM card are a lot of the Capcom fighting games, like X-Men versus Street Fighter, Street Fighter 03, stuff like that. So things that we got on the PlayStation but were inferior to the arcade versions. Well, there are arcade perfect ports on the Saturn. It's just you need that RAM card to play them, which is what excluded them from being released in the States. It's kind of a bummer.
Now, one thing I wanted to ask you real quick is, how is the Neo Geo over there?
The Neo Geo is excellent. I'm not I have a Neo Geo CD with, I want to say, 75, 76 games. I'm not sure how different the libraries are from the States and Japan. Typically, even here, Neo Geo, it's not all that common to come by it unless you go specifically to a retro game store. But yeah, the library, not really that big. I think it's 96, 97 games total for the Neo Geo CD. But a big plus of the Neo Geo CD is it is region free. Mm-hmm. So you can mix and match however you want. And I think even Ed T1138, friend of mine on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I've watched this stuff.
He can he has modded his own Neo Geo CD to, I guess, swap back and forth regions, so Japanese games can be played with English text. So I guess that's something to think about. That's a possibility you could do. I mean, I don't know why you would need to read anything in a Neo Geo game.
Yeah, they're all like either fighting games or shooters.
Yes, which is why I absolutely love the Neo Geo, because everything is an arcade game, and that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing about Japan is arcades are still alive and well here and booming, and I spent a lot of time in the arcades myself, and I can't come off that style of game. Those are still my favorite shooters and fighting games, and plenty of those to go around. That's another thing. I wish a lot more people could experience the arcade scene here, because it's just still just as fun now as it was, back, say, in the early 90s, to walk into just a building filled with arcade games.
Wow.
And to have your pick of the litter, basically.
Yeah, ours just, it just started dying, and it finally got to where most places that, whether it was a fun or a putt or anything like that normally had good games when I was younger, got to where all they had were pretty much racing games. Movie theater, you'll still see some cool, the games with the guns.
Yeah.
Like maybe a Time Crisis or Rambo that was broke and took my money. I remember that.
Yeah.
And, Terminator ones, you'll get some cool ones like that. But, at most places it just turned into, showbiz, to me, as it turned to Chuck E. Cheese. It used to be an awesome arcade, and now it's just, games with tickets to buy crap.
Yeah, so it's skee ball and basketball and no real arcade games to be found.
Yeah.
There's no RoboCop.
There's
no Pac-Man.
Street Fighter 2.
There's no main event.
Why even show up at that point? No, I mean, it's great. Just Friday, a couple of days ago, I was because I'm filming for a new series I'm going to start doing eventually within the next month or two, where I'm focusing entirely on arcades. And Friday, I was in an arcade in Akihabara called Taito Hei. And it's probably my favorite arcade in the city, just because each floor is so perfectly, regimented, and it's exactly what I want. So the second floor is nothing but shoot-'em-ups and retro games. And so everything from, the old stuff like Area 88 or UN Squadron for us American types, and Gradius and Darius, all of those, all the way up to the most recent, Dodon Pachis and cave shooters. So it's just wall-to-wall shooters, and then lots of retro stuff up there. You can sit down and play an old game of Final Fight or Double Dragon or Tetris, or even some Space Harrier, things like that. And then if you move up to the third floor is nothing but fighting games, just probably hundreds of fighting games, everything from the old Street Fighter 2 all the way up to more recent stuff like Tekken 7, and really just like everything in between. A lot of the more recent.
Wow.
Yes. Got some Tekken 7 going in there, which, I mean, if you sit down to play someone, you're liable to get destroyed, because a lot of those guys basically live in those arcades. But, very, very fun to go in there, and, you can sit down and play a game of Street Fighter Alpha 2, or, X-Men versus Street Fighter, or you can play some of the more recent 2D fighters that are getting released here, stuff like Aquapazza, and the newest Guilty Gears, or Blaze Blue, or the newest one I think it's Nitro Busters, something to that effect. Another crazy, over-the-top 2D fighter with, you know, the screen explodes and giant jiggly tits everywhere, and it's fantastic fucking games. So that third floor is nothing but that. And then if you head up to the fourth floor, that's where they have all of the really like stuff that uses a lot of peripherals, a lot of interactivity. They got lots of Final Fantasy Dissidia up there. This new kind of like it's a GunCon game almost, but it's kind of like a Final Fantasy Dissidia, except it has gun controllers as well, so you're also like trying to shoot your opponents, and then all the rhythm games and just all the wackiness and craziness, and then just a whole shit ton of claw machines where they have everything from really innocent stuff like you know, little plushies and things like that, to like some more perverted claw machines where you can get a figure of like a half naked woman that will sit on top of your cup ramen or something like that. So really excellent stuff. So
what's on the first floor?
The first floor is almost nothing. There's some claw machines down there, but I think the only reason to go into the first floor is to go down to the basement, where I think they have an anime shop or something like that. So the first floor is almost nothing. But as soon as you get to the second floor, it's just sensory overload. It's just every fucking shoot 'em up you could ever want to play, every fighting game you could ever want to play. So really awesome. That's the kind of arcades I like to spend a lot of time in. I can just, you know, sit down. If I'm with a friend, it's even better because we can play Street Fighter and I can annihilate them and just play all day for like 100 yen. And but yeah, go in there with, I don't know, $10 in yen in your pocket and just sit and play all day. Just play all the shoot 'em ups and fighting games you want. It's awesome.
Nice. Now, because I can't believe we're already starting to run. We're running short on time. So what we're going to do is, before we get into games we've been playing recently, James got a box before the show, so we're going to do a little audio unboxing from his brother EJ. So James, what did you get inside the box from your brother as he trips over it?
Unboxing videos were exciting. Just wait for the audio version. We'll see. I got a couple Japanese Saturn games.
Oh, nice.
Which now I have to get an action replay. I got Street Fighter Zero, and I got Sonic Jam.
Nice.
I got some GBA cases, a couple Game Boy cases. I got Legend of Zelda, the Twilight Princess, on Wii.
Oh, nice.
Because he got the new version, so I got this one. I didn't have it. I got Shark Tale on GameCube. And then, here's what's really cool. I got the hardcover. He gave me the hardcover strategy guide for Twilight Princess.
Oh, not the Shark Tale?
No, unfortunately, unless that's underneath it. But I don't think I got that one. But, yeah, no, I got the cool hardback cover, and that's pretty awesome. Because I think he ordered another one by mistake. And, man, GBA cases, a couple Saturn games. That's pretty cool. I really do need to get an action replay.
I do too. I really
and I can check out.
One of the things you're really going to enjoy on that Street Fighter Zero, I believe it's that one. Those early Capcom games on the Saturn came with trailers that you could watch, and I believe at least one of the ones on that one is like a Biohazard trailer from 1995, where they're showing off I guess a beta of the original Resident Evil, and the music that they play over it is so inappropriate and cheesy and awesome. So definitely enjoy that. That's almost better than the game itself.
You know, he'd mentioned a game he'd found. It was like a different version of, it was like Street Fighter 2, the movie, but not like the movie game.
Yes. I've reviewed that game. It's kind of garbage. It's an FMV game. And all the FMV is taken from the Street Fighter 2 anime, if you've ever seen that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you play from the perspective of one of Shadowloo's androids from that movie that's sent out to record data on all the fighters. And so you're that android, and you've got this cursor on the screen, and you're just watching scenes from the movie, and you're trying to essentially hit the button at the right time, like when they're striking each other, so you can collect their attack data. And then at the end of the game, you have a fight where you play as the android, which is a reskin of Ken from Street Fighter II Turbo, and you play against Ryu. And depending on how well you did during the game, which you probably did really shitty because it's hard to predict these these things, that dictates how fast and strong your character is, and you'll probably be really weak and slow and die instantly.
Wow.
Not a great game, but it's kind of an oddity in the Street Fighter library.
It makes you think kind of like that the Mega Man FMV game that came out.
Yeah, it's very, very much like that, yeah. Except not as good as that one, because that one actually had gameplay.
So, we're going to get into games we've been playing recently, and I'm actually going to start off real quick, because I haven't really been playing a whole lot lately. I think what I've been playing a lot lately is, of course, I played Street Fighter V, which we haven't recorded a podcast since I got Street Fighter V. I've really enjoyed it. I know there's been a lot of controversy over the modes and online and stuff like that, but I've been playing online. I've won some matches. I've lost some matches. It's Street Fighter. I mean, that's pretty much what it is, and all the other stuff is going to be coming out in the next couple of months, so it is what it is. I don't regret buying it. I got the special edition. It came with the Ryu statue, and I really like that. So, been playing that. Also got the Mega Man Legacy Collection on the PS4, and I swore I wasn't going to get that just because I had the Mega Man Anniversary Collection on the GameCube, and that's a far better version, other than the fact that the buttons are remapped, so it's kind of hard to play it that way, but the emulation is a lot better. The PS4 emulation for this Mega Man collection, it's decent. I don't want to say it's 100% perfect, because there's a lot of lag, especially with Mega Man 3, a lot of slowdown that, even when I play Mega Man 3 on my Ouya, as much people trash the Ouya, it has a better version of Mega Man 3 than the Legacy Collection. But
have you tried any of those challenge modes that they put on?
Yeah,
there?
And that was something I was going to get into, and that's almost worth buying the game alone. It's the challenges from what I've been playing right now. They've been like rush modes, where you're trying to beat your record, and you have like a certain scene in the Mega Man game from going to point A to point B. And I believe the challenges starting to get harder as you go along. But so far I've beaten Mega Man 1, Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3 challenges. So I've been playing that. I downloaded Broforce on the PS4. That was free on PS Plus for this month. That was a lot of fun. I did some live streaming of Super Mario Maker, which I hadn't played Super Mario Maker in a couple of months, and it's definitely one of those games that you can put down and pick back up, and it's like a brand new game all over again. They've added Nintendo event levels from Nintendo, and they've added some stuff like Excite Bike levels. Even some levels that's been made by some famous Japanese game show host. Like, he's made levels for Mario, and it's been a lot of fun. So I've been playing that, and the last thing that I wanted to mention was I did some live streaming with Mangus X1, and we played some Gauntlet on the PS4, and that was awesome. You can't go wrong with Gauntlet. It's the new one. I believe it's called like Gauntlet Slayer Edition or something like that. It was free for Xbox Live, not Xbox, PS Plus, about a couple of months ago. So yeah.
Is it more kind of like old style, or is it kind of like the last ones that have come out on?
It's
PS2
yeah,
or whatever, Xbox.
It's a lot more old school. It's the top down view, but they've just updated the graphics where it just looks it looks a lot better, but it plays like old school Gauntlet. Love it. So that's what I've been playing recently. And like I said earlier, I got Twilight Princess, but I haven't played too much of it, so I didn't want to talk about it too much. It looks amazing, though. I will say that. But let's pass it over to you, James. What have you been playing recently?
There's probably been a lot along the way since the last one, but most recently, I decided I was kind of in the mood for something, and I wasn't sure what. And I kind of had a bit of an idea, but I decided to give this game a second chance. It's a game called Wet, It's a Bethesda game, and I bought it. It was pretty cheap when I got it. I maybe spent $12, so it's probably really cheap now. I think it's just one of those ones that came out and just nothing much happened with it. I don't think anybody was super crazy about it. Probably wasn't, bad, but something when I initially played it just kind of turned me off. Like, I don't know, maybe I got killed. Maybe I was playing on normal and not easy. I don't know what it was, but popped it back in and just started playing it. And, it's got that grindhouse look with kind of the cruddy screen like they did in House of the Dead Overkill. So it's kind of got that theme to it. And you're a chick who's an assassin, and you're a badass, and you got, 2 guns, and you got a sword. You can run up and down the walls, and it's kind of got the slow-mo shooting stuff, which at first I think I wasn't crazy about. But then I got the hang of it. And I can run up a wall and shoot people from up in the air, swinging around on poles and stuff like that. Acrobatic crap. And, it's pretty violent, and it's cool. It kind of reminded me of Total Overdose that I like a whole lot on the original Xbox. Just kind of had that feel to it. Kind of like Machete. But that was pretty cool. And I also played on Xbox Jade Empire, which was another game from the makers of the Knights of the Old Republic.
Yeah, BioWare.
And yeah, it's kind of along the same lines. I think you might have a little bit more control. I never really played the Knights of the Old Republic too much. But this one, it's definitely got the role-playing element to it. Leveling up, you can choose a good path or an evil path. And it's mostly dealing with, like, martial arts. And, you got some magic and stuff involved in it. And it's pretty cool. It was just something I was in, just kind of in the mood for that. And I think both those games, I kind of got the more, mellow side with the Jade Dragon. And then I got the hack people up with Wet. And that's pretty fun. And then I also got something, not a game, but recently I got a Roku, which is just a little box, and I don't have cable or anything. And you plug it up to your TV, and you can download all these channels. And I think it's pretty amazing. I know it's been out for a while, and I'm probably late to the party on it, but, it's one of those things you don't have to have a smart TV. You can put your Netflix, your Hulu, your WWE Network, but I really love all the free channels. Shout Factory has got an awesome one with lots of horror movies. Got music, documentaries, Chuck Norris movies. It's just an action channel. It's just so much wrestling, just independent from all over the country. Just a vast array you can sit there and just search through. And it's just been, it's cool. Because I got most of my systems upstairs, and we had Netflix downstairs. So kind of got it for my wife, too, so she could have Hulu. But it's just been nice kind of having some programming like that to watch. If you got some channels that have a whole bunch, so you can just kind of sit there and flip through them like you would cable or satellite. And that's about the extent of what I've done. I might get to play some Twilight Princess too on my Wii out of date version, but it'll still be good.
It'll still look really good.
I can play it on my Wii U, though.
Yeah, it will look good on the Wii U with HDMI. It'll look a lot better than AV, that's for sure. But
oh, cruddy AV.
But let's go over to you, Jim. What have you been playing recently?
Righto. Well, before I get started, I'll just tack on, because he was talking about the Shout Factory channel. Troma, I don't know if you guys know this, but Troma Movies have their own YouTube channel now, and they've uploaded all of their movies, their entire filmography, onto YouTube. So you can watch, all the classics, the Toxic Avengers and Nukem High and Tromeo and Juliet and Poultrygeist. It's all there.
That's
awesome. I love that.
I love Nukem High. That one might be my favorite. That or Citizen Toxie. I don't know. I'm torn.
Well, I mean, when it comes to Troma, how can you choose a favorite? All right. What I've been playing recently, though, I guess I splurged, picked up quite a few games. On the Saturn, I picked up a fighting game made by Atlas called Groove on Fight. Pretty sweet game. Picked up a beat-em-up by Technosoft, which I've been playing quite a bit. It was a Japan-only release. It's called Neketsu Oyako, and it's kind of like a really wacky, kind of a more high-speed beat-em-up. It reminds me a little bit of, say, something like Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, or maybe even Captain Commando, something like that. So that's a lot of fun. And
what system was that one on, man?
Sega Saturn.
Awesome.
Sega Saturn, very good stuff. And another Japan exclusive shoot 'em up on the Saturn. Was lucky enough to find a copy of a game called Batsugun, which is made by Toa Plan. It's excellent. One of my new favorite shooters on the Saturn, actually. So Batsugun, having a lot of fun with that. I was up till the wee hours of the morning playing that. For my RPG fix, I actually picked up an Xbox 360 game called Cross Edge Dash, which is a crossover RPG that has characters from Capcom and Gust and Idea Factory and Nippon Ichi. So it crosses over a lot of different characters. Fairly fun RPG. This actually did get a release in the States on the PS3. So Cross Edge, very cool. And then another handful of 360 games I picked up. That's another system that people might want to look into if they want to collect some imports, is the 360. There's actually a lot of really cool 360 games that were Japan only. So, for instance, I picked up a copy of Phantom Breaker Extra, which is a 2D fighter for the 360 made by 5PB, which it's excellent. It's a 2D fighter, but it controls... The combo system is more like something you would find in a 3D fighter. There are no like traditional special moves like, you know, Hadokens and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. Picked up a shoot 'em up published by Arc System Works called Shikigami no Shiro Episode 3. Excellent bullet hell shooter. Has kind of like a really mystical motif to it, almost kind of like a Sengoku Blade or something like that. So it's awesome. And definitely probably the favorite shoot 'em up that I've picked up recently, again for the 360. It's a game called Raiden Fighter Aces, and it includes all three of the Raiden fighter games. So you might remember like maybe something like Raiden Trad or something like that for the Sega Genesis. These are the I guess somewhat more recent Raiden games. The graphics, sound, everything's amazing, and they play really, really well. You get like 10 different ships to choose from, and they all have different shot types and bombs and stats. It's really great, and so I've been really enjoying Raiden Fighters Aces, another Japan exclusive 360 release. And another good thing about a lot of the Japan only shoot 'em ups for the 360 is a number of them are actually region free. A lot of the ones made by Cave, so you can pick up like Dodonpachi titles or Muchi Muchi Pork or Mushi Hime Sama Futari, and those are all region free, so you can play them on your US Xbox 360. But yeah, that's
cool they did that. You know, Wrestle Kingdom is not region free. That always blew my mind. The 360 got a wrestling game. PS2 had a bunch of wrestling games in Japan, and then it goes in the next system, and PS3 has no wrestling games in Japan. Only the 360, and I can't play it.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's a system to look at if you're thinking about getting into imports, is the 360. They've got some really interesting stuff on there. Microsoft really didn't, they knew they weren't going to sell much in Japan, so the quality control for software and what they would and wouldn't allow in the system is just non-existent. So you'll find lots of cool stuff like that, like shoot 'em ups and fighting games. Some of them are actually they originally like self-published games that were sold at like Comiket and things like that. Like it hasn't been released yet, but a fighting game that was originally released for PC, just a self-published fighting game, and a year later it shows up on the Xbox 360 here. So lots of really interesting, quirky stuff on there. Lots of weird dating sims and just all kinds of crazy shit. So the Xbox 360, for importing is definitely something worth looking at. But yeah.
How's the price on 360s over there?
Still holding their, well, not entirely holding their value. You might spend like $80 to $100 on a 360.
Yeah,
It's not bad.
So, but once you got it, again, you got access to this ridiculous library of games that it's probably going to surprise you.
Huh. Well, before we close the show, Jim, let's give your channel one more plug, because people definitely need to check this channel out. So where can we find you?
Well, you can find me on youtube.com/KidShoryuken or user/KidShoryuken, whatever the hell it is. You go there, you're going to see reviews for lots of different systems, lots of import games. You're probably going to find some games that you never knew about, but as it turns out, are really cool. You're going to see a little bit of what it's like to be a collector here in Japan, taking the camera game hunting to hard off into other various game stores. Coming very soon, you're going to see a series on arcades here in Japan, which is kind of mind-blowing. It's going to make you nostalgic for the good old days when arcades were everywhere. And you can also come and watch some live streams that I do with my buddies, Karkamo, the #1 pro wrestler in Panama, my good friend Andrew, the RPG Machine 86, call him the other beast from the East, out there in Virginia. And usually we'll have guests on, Yell Chaos and Dahmer Cool Stuff, talking to some other people about jumping in. We've had Corey Marshall, the voice of Ryo Hazuki from the Shenmue series. He's come and had a chat with us. And it's always fun doing those, so you can catch those every once in a while too. But yeah, bottom line, you check out the KidShoryuken channel, you're going to see a shit ton of video games, and it's going to be awesome.
Indeed. And man, thank you so much for being on the show. You are also an awesome guest, man. And I have to say, you guys are listening. He pretty much just woke up, drank a cup of coffee, and jumped on Skype. So thank you so much for being on the show. And if you guys would definitely check out his channel. I really, really enjoy it. And if you guys are listening to this on Podomatic.com, be sure to check us out also on iTunes. Leave us a review. It really helps the show. It helps broaden the searches and gain some new listeners. And also my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Xander Skullion. And that covers everything from gaming reviews to unboxings to Let's Plays. The typical YouTube stuff that everyone does. I do it too. But you can check our podcasts on YouTube as well, in case you just don't want to go on Podomatic or iTunes. We have you covered. Anyway, guys, as always, thanks for listening, and as always, happy gaming.